If there's any position at this point, the first week or two into March, as far as the NFL draft, that there's just not going to be change in a board, whether that be pro days or interviews or the rumor mill or anything like that, it's quarterback. And so for that reason, thought this was a good start as far as looking at my top 10. Starting at 10, I've got Baylor quarterback Sawyer Robertson. Was really blown away by the fact that he had a 9.78 RAS at the combine. Just in my studying of him, I didn't know he was that caliber of athlete. The film, I didn't know he was that caliber of an athlete. Seeing him up close at the Senior Bowl, I didn't know he was that caliber of an athlete. That was some money-making kind of moves as far as tie-breaking yourself in a tier. But at 6'4", 220, cousin of Jarrett Stidham, Mississippi State transfer after his freshman year to Baylor. 61 to 25 touchdown to interception ratio. Nothing great there. Short release. A nice consistent 7.6 yards per attempt passing the ball. I just think he's someone that has a very nice ceiling floor as a good adequate backup quarterback in the NFL in a class where we typically see an average of 13 quarterbacks get drafted. To have him here at the 10 spot as a mid to late day 3 is about right. At number 9, Miami quarterback Carson Beck. Similar 6'4", 220 to Robertson. Obviously familiar with Beck from this neck of the woods here in Georgia, a former Georgia quarterback. 88 to 32 touchdown interception ratio for perspective versus Robertson as far as the production. Over 11,000 career passing yards collegiately. Good arm strength. Don't think it's great arm strength, particularly after that UCL injury on his elbow. Beck is one that is going to get ridiculed from his experience at Georgia, going to get ridiculed for some of his just personality. But his floor is just a good backup quarterback in the NFL. At number 8, Cade Klubnik out of Clemson. I think if you look at all of the quarterbacks that are drafted with the intent that they're going to be career backup quarterbacks in this league, I think he might have the longest career. 39 career starts at Clemson, over 10,000 passing yards, former 5-star recruit out of a big Allen program in Texas. Has Nick Foles as a mentor when you talk about a long career as a backup. 5th in big-time throws the past season. He has plenty of arm strength, good pocket poise, works through and finishes his progressions, accurate in the short to intermediate, and just kind of safe and anticipatory with the football. At 6'2", 207, good adequate size, particularly for a backup role. At number 7, Rutgers quarterback Ethan K-Lake-Manis. This might be more of the hot take of this group for me, or a little bit more of the my guy territory. But enjoyed watching his tape as good as anybody in this pre-draft process. Former Illinois Gatorade Player of the Year. Dad was a wrestler at Seton Hall. Had a brother play at receiver at both of his stops as a previous Minnesota transfer and then ultimately at Rutgers. 42 starts worth of experience. Definitely a rhythm passer. Calm under pressure. Anticipatory. Good timing. Good at diagnosing coverages pre and post snap. I really liked his effort that I saw out of him at the Hula Bowl. Would have liked to have seen him get a combine invite. But K-Lake-Manis is just somebody I think is a backup with good arm strength. I could take the bet on there and like him. And again, this will be the highest you'll see anyone have him as far as a 7 spot. And at number 6, Taylon Green out of Arkansas. That was the combine performance, but a 9.99 RAS as far as the testing. 4.3, 740. Runs like a thoroughbred. The longest strides in running of any position in this draft class. It really is a wonder to watch. And the guy looks like a track star out there, runs like a track star out there. Boise transfer, nearly 2,500 rushing yards in his career as a testament to testing, to tape to production, and nearly 10,000 passing yards as well. Uh, with his body, I mean, I can tell you from seeing him up close at the Senior Bowl, every bit of that 6'6", 229, 230. And I know a lot of discussions about, oh, should he change a position? He athletically definitely can do it. He's been adamant in his combine interviews with the media for the general public that he has no intention of doing that. I think he's someone in particular, you look at some of these teams that can just take a bet, say like the Jets, for example, has plenty of arm strength, want to see some more touch, want to see some more consistency as far as the accuracy. To bump him up any more than sixth, I won't in this pre-draft process, but speak of that in hindsight. The most debated quarterback in this class, for those that are naysayers, the most triggering in this class, and that's Penn State quarterback Drew Aller. I mean, 6'5", 237, rocket for an arm. His stats are better than you would believe, or particularly consensus would believe before you really dive into it. You're talking about a guy with a 61-13 touchdown interception ratio as far as protecting the ball. He's been in some of those key moments where he has had those interceptions, like people critique and say matchups against Ohio State, for example. Coming off of a broken ankle he suffered in October, I thought that his combine workout was promising, and the fact that you just saw him, one, get out there and just get more and more comfortable as the workout went on. He really was starting to rip it more, step into his throw. He's going to have to continue to work on he's going to have to continue to work on not just throwing with arm, using his lower body and having mechanics there. But some QB coach is going to say they can do it. Having interviewed some of those Penn State players at the Senior Bowl, and then just what you hear from other media, all those teammates loved him coming out of Penn State. The upside is there. I get the shortcomings and the concerns for people, but in a quarterback class like this, even more so than ever, it's shoot for ceiling, shoot for ceiling, shoot for ceiling. And then at number 4, Cole Payton out of North Dakota State. I mean, I can tell you from the Senior Bowl, very pretty football. It's just a matter of that elongated throw in motion. I mean, versus a Ty Simpson, versus a Luke Altmaier, versus some other name. Like, coming way back here, it's nothing like coming shooting out from behind the ear, kind of, and not comparing him in any way to this, but kind of that Tim Tebow reach back. I know that a quarterback coach in the NFL will have intentions of tweaking that for a timing purpose. But I mean, nearly 2,000 career rushing yards. Like I said, the 997 RAS, that translates to tape and production. A 21-6 touchdown to interception ratio. Having really had the majority of his starts here in the past season. At 6'3", 232. Big, strong guy. I mean, to have jumped 40 inches in the vertical at 10-10 broad. That vertical jump is the third best quarterback jump at the combine ever. You know, with Anthony Richardson, we saw Taylor Green go break the record by 3 inches this year. But I mean, third best ever at 40 inches at that weight. Ran a 4.56. I think more impressive than that. I know more impressive than that. A 1.55 10-yard split. That and the other testing is just incredible burst, incredible athleticism, potential, pretty football. Very well-spoken guy. He's a fun one, and it kind of goes back to what I said with Aller. Shoot for the ceiling, shoot for the ceiling, shoot for the ceiling. At number 3, in a different tone than what we said about Aller and what we said about Peyton, these big, strong, big-armed guys. LSU quarterback Garrett Nussmeier. Nuss is somebody who's not going to have any elite traits athletically, but it's just across the board. You're talking about, his father was a quarterback in the league for 5 years. His dad is the offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints. In that 2024 season at LSU, when he was healthy, had over 4,000 passing yards, incredible demeanor, pocket poise, enough athleticism, great touch, anticipation, throwing in front of his receivers. His injury abdominally this past season, and he's added some context to that and kind of opened up and been like, yeah, it was horrible. It felt like I was being stabbed with an ice pick every time I threw the ball, and it would have been tough for anybody to play under Brian Kelly. Let's get real, womp womp. Uh, Nuss is somebody that you really got to throw the 2025 tape out. Didn't have a fair go there. For that reason, there's discount potential here for somebody that we had in discussions as possible QB1 going into the season. Somebody is going to take a shot on him. I mean, I could see it second, third round. I think the league will be higher on Nussmeier than consensus media is at this point because they're going to zone in on that 2024 tape. They're going to zone in on his pedigree. They're going to zone in on the fact that he was able to play through that injury, play under Brian Kelly, and get what he could out of the season as a tough teammate. Great interview always. Everyone is going to, for the most part, have Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson at QB2. And there's no reason not to. Really was glad to see him put that weight back on after being sick that we saw at the combine. Opposite of what we said about Cole Payton, very short release, similar to Nuss in the fact his father is the head coach at UT Martin and has been for a long, long time. He's a former top 50 recruit. Loved in that Alabama program. I mean, to the point with some of these, two upcoming really young quarterbacks they were looking to go forward with. Had no interest in transferring out of that program. And different than what we have seen in these legal battles for Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss. Simpson looked at this class and said, man, there's QB2 to be had now versus looking at a stronger 2027. I think that was smart as well. I thought one of the coolest things of the combine was when Simpson was asked, what is the longest play that you called in your time in Alabama that you remember off the top of your head? Just for a moment for him to shine with his intellect, the intangibles that come with it. The play being H-swag, triple left, narrow Frito, Tiger wide over, Z Commander staple, which was ultimately a touchdown to Jeremy Bernard against Wisconsin. I think the Rams a year behind Matt Stafford's worth mentioning, and that is, I don't have to know the Simpson family personally to know that that's the hope, goal, and dream for them at that spot. And before going to number one, I'd like to circle a couple of comps I have for quarterbacks that we've mentioned. Ty Simpson, got Mark Bolger in here. That's one I saw earlier in the draft process from Ian Cummings of Pro Football Network. That is absolutely dead on for those of you old enough to know about Mark Bolger with his time with the Rams. Garrett Nussmeier, I've got Tony Romo in there, and I think that's good perspective. Difference as a prospect being coming out of a blue blood program. Taylon Green, Colin Kaepernick, the running ability, the athleticism, the throwing motion, just his gait in motion. I think that one was worth mentioning. And then before going to number one that we all know who it is, who was the runner-up guy? Who was in that 11 spot trying to get into this class? Illinois quarterback Luke Altmaier. I think Altmaier has had as strong of a pre-draft process, really had a good Senior Bowl. I think arguably had the best throwing workout at the NFL Combine. Kind of like we said with Nussmeier, no elite physical traits, but you just look at him and this guy's just going to be a backup quarterback in this league for a long time. Short throwing motion, ton of experience at that Illinois program under Brett Bielema. Can't hear anything but good things coming out of there from everyone involved. I think the league could be a hair higher for a lot of those reasons. Not like we said with a Cole Payton, not like we said with a Drew Aller as far as shooting for ceilings, but teams that are just comfortable getting a nice high floor, saying we need a good backup quarterback in this room, and we feel comfortable with an Altmaier to come in here and do that for us. I think athletically, as a prospect, what you could kind of hope for. I think Jake Haener, who we've seen with the New Orleans Saints these past few years coming out of Fresno State, is another decent perspective of that. And then lastly, here, it's Fernando Mendoza. And at this position, when we talk about the tiers, the drop-offs, it's arguably up there as far as the biggest fall-offs. You could talk about a Kenyon Sadiq at the tight end spot. You could talk about a Jeremiah Love at the running back spot. You can damn sure talk about Fernando Mendoza at this quarterback spot. Cal transfer. I was really high out of Mendoza coming out of Cal. That was a great tape watch before his move ultimately to Indiana. A 41-6 touchdown to interception ratio this year is just incredible. This guy is as much of a leader as we've seen in college football this season, as good of a person. Projecting him stepping into that Raiders locker room that he's definitely going to, with an Ashton Genty, with a 14th pick to go do something with right behind him coming up now as we mock draft going up to draft night. Brock Bowers as well. Clint Kubiak as a first-year head coach. Tom Brady being so involved in that program. Loved seeing him coming to the combine weight at 236. At 6'5", prototype size, can make all the throws. Do I think he has an elite arm? Not necessarily, but enough arm to make all the throws he needs to. Have seen a lot of the people with the Matt Ryan comp. Totally get it. Totally get it. I think Mendoza might have a hair more mobility running the ball, just as far as some minor differences as far as a prospect. But I haven't quickly ran through this top 10 quarterbacks. And like I said, average of 13 go. I don't know that we see that number this year in a smaller class. So that is even more. This is probably about your 10. Like I said, I threw Altmaier in there at 11. I'd put it around that number. I think beyond that, you'll see some UDFA shots.